Notification volume 0%.
Good afternoon. I am Blind Prime, and today you're watching Blindformers. I have for you today Nemissis Prime. He is based off of the Netflix, not Netflix. This is Netflix Nemesis Prime. He is based off of the Transformers War for Cybertron Seige Voyager Optimus Prime mold. Not to be confused with the Transformers War for Cybertron Seige Leader Class Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime. Now, as you could see, he stands pretty tall. He's get the measuring sticks out here. You can see that he is 23 studs tall. That's pretty cool. 23. Go for you. Let's compare him to Bumblebee. We have a Bumblebee right here. The hell was that? Cats. We have for you Bumblebee right here. And Bumblebee stands up to Nemesis Prime's elbow. You know, a sort of... yeah, Bumblebee, Nemesis Prime sees his sword. You may have screwed up here, buddy. This brings me up to an interesting thing. Nemesis Prime came with this sword right here that I've been talking about for a few videos now. This sword's pretty neat. It's out of all of the Siege weapon formers, this guy is hands down the coolest. So, because all the other melee weapons kind of sucked. Except for the hammer. That was kind of neat, but it still was a little terrible. It had parts forming, which I don't agree with. Now, this sword transforms into a bird. So to transform the sword, you want to separate its blade. You can feel there's a crease down the sides of each blade. And then you can fold down this back panel. It's a pretty simple transformation. Then you spin the blades for 90 degrees, and they become little wings. And then, he's this little bitty bird guy. Fold this thing up to give him a little more girth. And now he just kind of flies. He's like, gah, gah. Oh, Bumblebee. Nemesis has woken it up. You better flee. Gah, no. All right, we're done with that. Let's move on to this. Now, to transform Nemesis Prime, it's pretty simple. Actually, it's pretty complicated. We're going to remove his weapons. Just so y'all know, Nemesis Prime came with some Titan's Return weaponry. And it's not really meant for Siege. I was a little upset by that. When you take off the two big weapons he has, they have two 5mm port pegs, but they're really close to one another, and between them is this plastic line that makes it very difficult to put these things into any position unless you have a siege port kind of hanging out. That's why I put them on the smokestacks, because when the smokestacks fold up, it's just kind of a siege port hanging out in the middle of nowhere. And then these things can attach. But there isn't anything I have found so far that has two 5mm ports this close together and a slot in the middle of them so that this piece of plastic here can go in there. I'm actually thinking of cutting it down somehow. But that's his two big old weapons. He does come with the weapon that the Optimus Prime came with in Siege. So the Siege Voyager Optimus Prime weapon, it's just a simple ion, his ion blaster. Let me move that off to the side. Now, let's talk about the transformation for him. So, first off, you want to part both windows. Go ahead and open the windows. You can do this by feeling close to the, go put your fingers on either shoulder, move them forwards towards the front of the cab, then hook your fingernail right on the side of the window cab, like in that little edge that's there, and then you can pull each window open. They open left and right and reveal a huge section in the middle. So, after you've opened the windows, you fold his head inwards. His head will just fold down into the cavity made, and that's pretty simple. Now, when you've done that, you want to take his backpack. Now, I'm going to call his backpack panel, this huge panel, because we will be talking about it for a little bit, panel A. So you want to take panel A from his back, and you want to twist it upwards. but not all the way up. You want to lay it where it's flat across the top of him, where his head used to be. So take your finger, drag it from his head. You'll feel where the hinge is for the back panel. And there's also something neat about this hinge. So when the back panel and the head are lined, the neck where the head used to be, are lined up flat against one another, spin the back panel, panel A, 180 degrees. Once you have spun panel A 180 degrees, you will reveal more panels in here. So we will call this panel that folds out from panel A, panel B. And panel B is this weird T-looking thing that folds upwards. And then on panel B, there are two little flappy panels. We'll call it one flappy left and flappy right. So flappy left and flappy right. And then there's a flappy little panel, thin little panel that becomes a bumper. So we'll just call it the bumper panel. Now, that's all unfolded and done. Leave it alone. We're not even messing with it anymore. We're done with it for a minute. After you've taken care of that with panel A, B, and flappies left, flappies right, and flappies center, you want to take his legs and pull them away from his body. This will be actually kind of easy to do. Just grab his body in one hand, grab his legs in the other, and then pull his legs backwards, and they will move on a hinge to line back. Like he's just now kind of standing with his hips. It's kind of like a split, except the legs aren't all the way back. You'll figure it out when you're transforming it, but it want to lay flat. And once you've done that, we will work on his arms. So move both of his shoulders, making sure that the panel A is on top of the cab of the truck. Where the head used to be is actually the top of the cab. So that's panel A. Cream, what are you getting into? So you want to move both shoulders. It's a crazy cat. Both shoulders will move backwards. The smokestacks will sit in the back, behind the truck cab. And when you move both shoulders backwards, fold each arm upwards at its elbow joint so that it sits at a 90-degree angle. On the arms, you will find this bulbous thing hanging out underneath each forearm. You can twist that. So you want to twist it from under the forearm, where the negative space from it, where you can feel that there's a lot of hollowness. You want that to face inwards towards the center of the truck, but you want the nice, clean feeling thing that has a lot of texture to it to face outwards away from the truck, because this will be the front of the wheel wells for the front tires. Now that that is taken care of, we want to take the tire in his lower body. You will feel in his lower chest. You will feel two tires kind of hidden in there. They're kind of easy to get out sometimes, but mainly you gotta work them. You gotta kind of pull them and work them out. They will both fold outwards, and they're on little long peg things. So fold them all the way down, past the section where when you folded the legs backwards, there was a negative area revealed between the front of his thigh, the front of his groin, and the back of his groin, because his butt is now sticking in the air and his front is forwards. So take both of those wheels and put them hubcaps down on the ground. So they are now facing downwards, hubcaps down. Now that that is done, you want to move to the back of the legs and fold each foot forwards on itself. It will close like a taco. And now that you've taken care of the taco feet, you want to spin each leg 180 degrees. This is important now. Now that you've spun each leg 180 degrees, there are some panels to be taken care of. First off, we will take where the back of the leg is, and you will find that there's a pretty cool texture back there, and it's nice and flat. Well, that's actually a panel. So we want to try and grab that. And the best way to do it is one whole side of his leg, where the inside of his leg, which is now the outside of his leg, actually folds upwards. And when you fold it upwards, it's on a ratchet, so it has some nice, good, solid folds. You can then, it will pull away from the back of the leg a thin little panel that will fold in on this section that you have folded up. So we will call these, each of these leg panels, leg panel left and leg panel right. So when you've done leg panel left and leg panel right, and you've folded them both up, you know, we're not sticking anything together just yet. We're just folding them up to get them out of the way. Because the wheel wells, you know, those wheels, which are now on the inside of his legs, and the round part of the wheel is facing towards the sky, we can actually take that, and with a little effort, it's on this unique hinge that allows the entire double wheel assembly with its shield bit to fold around and go all the way around the leg to click into place on the outside of each leg, making the 4 back wheels of a semi-truck. And we're not quite done with the legs yet. You will find that there's some panels right where the knee connects. So where the knee would fold in the leg, there are 2 little panels. I will turn him around so you can kind of see them. I've already folded one out, but you will find that they have a cool little texture. It will make that sound, and you can use your thumb to, and this is why I say do it before you've clicked the legs, because you may need to move the legs around to get at them. But each of these tiny little panels folds up. They're not very big, and they will lay flat against the tops of the thighs that are there. Now that that is done, you want to fold each of these pieces like that. So you just lay them flat against the sides of the truck, because we've got to finish the arms before we can make any completions. So to finish the arms, you just remember how I told you about where to put the bumper and that panel on the arm. You want to make sure that the panel that folds up and down on each arm is facing out, away from the cab of the truck. And then once the arm is in there, fold that panel on the forearm upwards, and it will mesh with the other textures of the cab of the truck. So we will copy that process on the other side, duplicating it, making sure that the crazy weird bumper looking thing is out of the way, because that's going to be the front of the truck, and we want to make sure that we have easy access to it and it doesn't get trapped in a transformation, which is really why I'm trying to make sure I go over these with you like this in the way I'm doing it, because sometimes if you do something wrong, it will get trapped in the transformation and you'll have to undo some steps to get at it. So folding both of those panels upwards to mesh them with the cab of the truck. Now the bumper parts, the tops of the wheel wells, you want to make sure they're separated away. And now we're going to go back to panel A. Remember panel A from earlier? It's been kind of sitting here all alone. So when we get to panel A, we want to open the windows on the front of the truck again. We want to take panel A and we want to bring it all the way down. Now you may have to fold in left flap and right flap just a little to get them past the windows. And just do it like that. Come on. Now, once you get them past the windows, nice little satisfying click there. You can unfold panels A, left panel and right panel again, and they will actually lay flat and hide, because I bet you were wondering, hey, wait a minute, I kind of feel a bit of the fist, and it feels like it's hanging out. Well, these panels hide the ends of the fists so that you no longer see them. And center panel, remember front center panel I talked about, has a couple of little rectangular male pegs. And these bumper bits that I've talked about, the front bumper bits, have a couple of rectangular female peg holes. And you can easily plug both of those wheel wells in. Now that you've done that, you want to plug in those side panels I described earlier that folded up from the legs, and leg panels A and B. Now, cool thing about these leg panels is once you folded them forwards, you feel that they complete the wheel well, and they have nice texture like a like a fuel tank and stuff. Once those both have folded forwards and lightly snapped into place, Bring both of your front tires, which have been sitting hubcap down all this time, bring them forward and set them in their wheel wells. Pretty easy to figure out where they go now that you've built this entire little structure for them. Make sure everything is solid and all connections are secure. There is a difficulty bit here with the back feet. Make sure that the back feet are connected. There are male and female ports there that slide into one another. And if you don't do that, then the feet get all sorts of discombobulated. Now you have him in his vehicle mode. Now his vehicle mode is 20 studs long. His vehicle mode can also, let's get Cliff Jumper out here for a comparison on vehicle modes. Cliff Jumper can literally sit on the back of him. Where the trailer would hitch to the back of the semi-truck, all that area fits Cliff Jumper pretty well. So this guy can just carry Cliff Jumper around on his back. So, give you an idea of how big this dude is in comparison to something small. The smallest of the deluxes. So, on the back of him, you will find that there is a siege port. It is between both legs where they connect. It is tiny. It is secluded. It is near those two panels that we unfolded earlier, and we unfolded those panels to reveal this siege port, which his ion blaster plugs into. So that is one siege port. He's got a siege port on each side of the back of the rig, where those wheels are, and you can plug his big guns into those siege ports. It's actually the best place I have found to plug the guns in. There we go. Both guns plugged into those siege ports. And as siege ports go on the front, he's got two, one on each of his smokestacks, and then two on top. So that's 2, 4, 6, 7. Let's see if those things on the front, because I've never actually experimented with that. Let's grab his ion blaster. Come on. Let's see if those headlights are actually siege ports. They feel like they could be, but sadly they are not. So Optimus Prime is not a big keeper of siege ports. But that has been the Netflix Nemesis Prime, the Transformers War for Cybertron Seige Optimus Prime Voyager Mold. Thank you very much for watching. And Lord have mercy, Cream, if you keep knocking my Transformers over. This has been Blind Prime, and you have watched Blindformers. Have a good day. Bye-bye.